Washington Journal continues.
And we're back with Congressman Mike Conaway, a Republican of Texas and a member of the Intelligence Committee. Congressman, let me begin with the news of the U.S. spying on its allies. Did you know that that was occurring as a member of the intelligence panel?
Well, it's clear that we always collect foreign intelligence everywhere we can. And, so Europe is a foreign country, so we collect foreign intelligence. It's in America's best interest, not only from a national security standpoint, but for other interests as well. As you've heard Keith Alexander say, much of that data collection has been used to help avert problems in Europe that might have otherwise happened. And so our allies benefit from the collection that we do, and that's an important national security issue that we maintain these, or that we do collect foreign intelligence.
Senate Intelligence Chairman Dianne Feinstein, Democrat of California, said yesterday that the intelligence panel has been left in the dark about a program that's been occurring over the last decade.
Well, I don't know what goes on in Senate intelligence. I do know what goes on in the House intelligence, and we have Keith Alexander up often to discuss what's going on with the intelligence activities, the collection gathering. We have the CIA up often to do our oversight responsibility. So I don't feel that way from the House side, but I don't know what goes on in the Senate.
So you, as a House member of the Intelligence Committee, were briefed that we were spying on U.S. allies, government leaders. I
was briefed, I've got to be very careful here,
yep,
that we collect foreign intelligence overseas, foreign intelligence that we collect. And so, yes, we knew that, and we do know that the United States has not only collections through the NSA, but a variety of other methods where we collect as much information we can about what's going on overseas, so that policymakers here in the United States can have more information. The more information we have, the better decisions we make, and the safer this country will be.
President Obama, according to the White House, was not made aware of this until this summer. What's your reaction to that?
Well, that's up to him in the White House. You know, those are the kind of questions, excuse me, Greta, that someone would ask if they're trying to decide whether or not this president's doing a good job or not. We settled that last November. That's an irrelevant question, quite frankly. He's never running for re-election again. So whether he knew about this or Benghazi or Fast and Furious or all the other things that are going on, you know, if you voted for him, I suspect you'll give him a pass again. If you didn't vote for him, then you'll be outraged, and it's going to there's not a lot of middle ground on that issue.
Well, it sounds like you doubt that he was not made aware of this.
I have no idea what the president did or did not know on any of these issues.
The chairwoman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Dianne Feinstein, also in her statement yesterday called for a total review of the NSA's spying programs. Would you endorse that? Do you endorse that idea? And what would that entail?
Well, I certainly endorse constantly everything we do. I mean, there's nothing that we do as a federal government that shouldn't be subject to review and analysis. And is it still effective? Is it doing what we need to do? Is it cost effective? Those kinds of things. And so, you know, A to Z kind of review of what's going on at NSA is fine. It's a part of our oversight responsibilities on the Intelligence Committee, both in the House and the Senate. And so I don't think it ever hurts to ask folks who are doing things on behalf of the United States what they're doing, how they're doing it. Is it effective? Is there a better way to do it? Do we even need to still do it? Those kind of questions.
The New York Times, though, this morning notes that what Ms. Feinstein is talking about would be, quote, a major undertaking.
Again, I don't know what Ms. Feinstein is talking about, but in terms of the House Select Committee on Intelligence, we review things constantly, and if we wanted to go through everything that the NSA does, then that's something we would do.
This afternoon's hearing before the House Intelligence Committee with the NSA Director Keith Alexander, with James Clapper, what will you be asking those two?
Well, we've asked most of the questions in private sessions, and again, we'll help ask the kind of questions that will hope to allow General Alexander and General Clapper to explain to the American people what we are and are not doing. There's an incredible amount of misinformation that's being reported, particularly when these things are early reported. There's a lot of mistakes made, some honest and some, I think, for sensational value, but an awful lot of misinformation in the public arena as to what the NSA is and is not doing, particularly with respect to U.S. citizens. And having General Alexander, again, be able to explain the differences between the programs that are out there, what we can and can't do with respect to things within the United States and against U.S. citizens, just to continue to try to get that record straight so that when we do decide to make a decision with respect to policy issues, we're basing it on facts rather than just the innuendo that's in a newspaper article or the misinformation that journalists continue to put out. Again, sometimes by honest mistakes and other times I think by design.
How will you vote on what the Washington Post says are dueling pieces of NSA legislation? Jim Sensenbrenner, Republican of Wisconsin, has teamed up with Patrick Leahy, Democrat of Vermont, to put together legislation that would rein in, according to the Washington Post, what the NSA is doing with its method of collecting phone records on Americans. Then you have your chairman, Mike Rogers, on the House side, and Senator Dianne Feinstein on the Senate side, wanting to have more transparency in how NSA does its programs. How would you vote on those two pieces of legislation?
Well, I haven't seen the Sensenbrenner-Leahy legislation. I saw a brief description you had earlier on the program, and it looked like at first blush just a redefinition of what we're already doing. I mean, they use the same kind of catchphrases, maybe some new catchphrases as to what's going on. So I don't know what that legislation does or doesn't do, and so I can't take a position with respect to that. On the House, on the Select Committee's legislation that we're pushing forward, I am in favor of that, and working with Chairman Rogers to try to get that done.
And explain to our viewers who don't, get a briefing like you do, what this would do. What would Rogers' legislation do?
It's an attempt to demystify some of the things that are going on. Much of everything we do is classified, and that in and of itself lends itself to folks being distrustful, particularly when we're in an arena as we are now where the vast majority of Americans don't trust their federal government, they don't trust Congress, they don't trust the things that are going on. And so then for me to say we're doing X, Y, or Z, it's met with a bit of skepticism, and I understand that. I've got to try to maintain my own personal integrity and those kind of things. So having additional information about the programs, what they do and don't do, particularly given where the general knowledge of the public is now with respect to these issues, the impact that it will have on enemies and on our foes. They already know now much of what they shouldn't have known before the leaks. And so we've, helping the American people understand that we are using this information properly, correctly. There is good supervision and oversight through the courts, through the executive branch, and through Congress to make sure that we're not abusing our privacy rights.
Let's get to phone calls.
Sure.
Richard's been waiting in Lake Placid, Florida. Independent caller. Hi, Richard.
Yes. Good morning, Greta.
Morning.
Good morning, Representative Conway. It appears to me and the reports I've been reading that there is a purge going on in the Obama administration with our military, that he has basically retired or forced out 197 or 200 high-ranking officers, field commanders, admirals, and he's given the Obama administration has given a litmus test to military personnel as to if they will turn their weapons on the U.S. citizens. This is kind of a scary thing. I've read it report in 3 different sources. I would like to ask the congressman if he knows anything about this. Would he comment on this, and what is going on with this administration? It appears that he has made the U.S. citizens the enemy. He has a problem telling the truth. That's very obvious. We don't know what's going on with any of the incidents like Benghazi, Fast and Furious, the IRS. I would like for the guest here, Representative Conway, to comment on this, please.
Okay, Richard.
Well, thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. We're having a shrinkage in the United States military base because of sequestration and cuts that this administration has done over the last 5 years with respect to military spending. As you shrink the force, you're going to have some natural shrinkage at the top as well, because you can't maintain that same top and shrink the bottom. So the germ of truth to what you're talking about may be the fact that we have some reduction. You've seen reports that reducing the number of flag officers and those kinds of things. To tie that to a litmus test, to tie that to anything else, it would be totally inappropriate for this administration to be requiring, particularly the idea that the military would in fact turn on the U.S. citizens. I have not heard anything whatsoever about that from official sources or unofficial sources. Quite frankly, you're the first person that's brought it up with respect to tying the reductions in the flag ranks and the other ranks is driven by sequestration and by the overall spending cuts in the reduction in money that we're spending at the Department of Defense, tying that to this litmus test.
Congressman.
But it would be totally inappropriate to require some statement like that.